Hey everyone, I hope you are doing good on this Tuesday. I am so excited to have Tina Schrader with us today. Tina works for Chenal Family Therapy in the Little Rock office. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself in a minute, but we are back today with the self-care series, and she is going to talk to us about my favorite thing, the brain, and kind of heart, like stuff like that, and piggybacking off what I've done in the past. And so I know a lot of people out there love the brain talks. And so Tina, I'm just going to kind of hand it over to you, and I'm excited to hear, but tell us about where you are, how to reach you, what your little niche is, and people you see in the therapy world, and take off with it.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So my name's Tina. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a counselor supervisor in the state. I've been doing mental health therapy for a little over 10 years now. My first experience in mental health was working with adolescents in a residential setting with problematic sexual behavior, and then I moved into school-based for about 7 years. And the last 3 years or so have been focused on working with early childhood kids and their parents. I've been doing a lot of work, especially with a parent and child who have like a shared trauma history. And I've also been working more with adults, and recently got EMDR trained and have been using EMDR with kids and adults. And that's just, I could probably talk 15 minutes about that, so I won't, but that's been a really neat experience. So yeah, I'm also with Chenal Family Therapy in the West Little Rock office. So same way you reach Katie is about the same way you reach me. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into it. So I am a really big like science nerd and biology nerd, and so that's where I'm gonna start. One thing I've been hearing from a lot of the people I work with is, why am I having such a hard time getting out of this negative loop that I'm in? Why is it so hard to be happy, to find joy? And a big part of that is our biology. So if you've seen Katie's series on the amygdala, that's a good starting place. So kind of piggybacking off of what Katie's talked about, our amygdala does not differentiate between a big threat, a little threat, a real threat, a perceived threat. A threat is a threat. And when our amygdala is activated, the rest of our brain is not functioning so well. And so if you are feeling overwhelmed and anxious, that's part of it. It's hard to find positivity when your amygdala is lit up. The other thing is, our brain is just super good at finding the negative. And historically, if we think about that, there's some really good reasons for that. It was really important to know which berries were going to kill us, which berries were safe to eat, which animals were okay to have within a certain distance, and which animals we needed to stay really far from. And so our brains really focus on these things that are negative because its primary objective is to keep us safe. Self-preservation is the brain's highest priority. What can I do to make sure that I take care of the person? And so our brain just focuses on these things because it thinks, I have to keep you safe. The other thing that we know is that our temperament to some degree is genetically based, meaning how happy and agreeable and open you are is somewhat based in your genetics. That means for some of us, we have to work a little bit harder to see the positive side of things. Some of us, it comes a little bit more naturally. The other thing I think is important to keep in mind is that our environment also plays a huge role in how our brain functions. If you choose to watch things or listen to podcasts that are causing you anxiety, or focusing on things that you see in the news and having a hard time limiting that, or the things that you choose to follow on social media, if they're not making you feel good, all of this also contributes to some of that negativity bias. Additionally, if you happen to be around people or living with somebody else who's really struggling right now, it can be a lot on that other person too, to see somebody you care about struggling. So if somebody you love is having a hard time, that affects us too. So we have all these things that kind of work against us when it comes to being happy. So if we've got all these things weighing against us, why even work on it? So we know that this is a skill that we can learn. I tell my clients all the time, mental wellness is an active process. This is not something that happens vicariously. It is something we are always working on. So just like, working on your biceps, happiness is a skill that you can work through like a muscle. And as we focus on things that make us happy or bring us joy, we are literally rewiring our brain to notice those things more often. So the more and more and more that you notice how beautiful the leaves are on the trees and how pretty the flowers are and that smile on your child's face, the more you're going to notice those things because your brain is literally wiring for those things. I also spend a lot of time talking with parents and families on what we focus on, we get more of. So if your child is having a problem, if we focus on what we want, so if they're not cleaning their room, when we notice they're cleaning up, going, oh, wow, you picked up your toys, that was so helpful. Instead of focusing on, you didn't pick up your toys, that was so frustrating, we're going to get more of that. The same thing happens with joy and happiness. The more that we focus on those things, the more that we're going to get more of those things out of our life. We also know, and this I think is the most important, particularly if you have anxiety about being sick or not being well, we know that positivity, happiness improves our overall health and well-being, including our immune system functioning. And in fact, when we're stressed and overwhelmed, that causes cortisol to be released, which negatively impacts our immune system. So if you're stressed and overwhelmed, it affects your immune system. So another reason to work on this is going to help you fight off infection if you need it. So what are some small actionable things that we can do? You're going to hear some overlap from the other two presenters, but I think repetition's a good thing. So let's go. So humans need the same things that plants need. We need fresh air, we need water, we need sunlight. And so if you can make those a priority each day, it doesn't have to be a long time. It can be something as simple as opening your windows, take your allergy meds if you need them, open your windows, go outside for a few minutes, make sure you're drinking some water each day, nurturing your body with good foods, which is hard, but you are what you eat, and if you're eating well, you're going to feel better. I think it's also really important to make some time to move your body. Now, I'm not talking about burpees and holding 2-minute planks and deadlifts or anything like that. Like, this can be like a dance party in your living room with your family, going for a quick walk, just playing outside with your kids, doing some cleaning around the house. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but moving your body, we know that kicks up the endorphins and gives you a little boost. I also know that this is a time where we can really get stuck in that worst case scenario. And I would really challenge everyone, when you notice that you're worst case scenarioing a situation, to think about what might be the best case scenario. What would be the best thing that could come out of this? Like I said earlier, our brain is really good at going, here's the worst thing that could happen. So we need to go, but what if I don't get sick and I take care of my family and I stay home and I wash my hands and we stay well and we get out of this and we resume life and everything's fine? I would encourage doing that. The other things is noticing when other people are doing things, making a point to tell people thank you and that you appreciate them and that they did something that was helpful to you. If it's hard to notice other things, that's a great place to start, because there's always room to give someone a thank you. And then starting to notice other things in your life that you appreciate. So this is kind of getting into gratitude, and gratitude's great. It doesn't have to be those things like I have a roof over my head and clothes on my back and food in my pantry. It can be small things like, it's not raining today and I can go outside for a walk and play with my kid because it's not raining today. Or it's raining today and that means I don't have to water my garden because the flowers are getting water. So just noticing small things, foods you enjoyed, a moment that made you laugh, a funny meme, a connection with a coworker that you really enjoyed. It doesn't have to be these big, overwhelming moments of gratitude or joy. I think some of those small moments oftentimes add up to be more meaningful than these big moments of joy. So there's tons of really great journals out there. You can get like a 5-minute journal, bullet journals, gratitude journals. If you can't get started on your own, there's also lots of free prompts online to get you started if you're not sure how to get started with noticing these things. So having said all that, I want to reiterate that this is also a season where it's totally okay to be struggling. It's normal to have moments of sadness and worry and anxiety. That's totally fine. If you find that that is taking up a big chunk of your day, that's when some of these things might be helpful to start putting into your day or reaching out to somebody for support. And parents, these are great things that you can do on your own to role model to your kids, or getting your kids involved so that they can do some of these things, because kids are not immune to the stress of this stuff, even if they may not have full awareness of what's going on.
Oh, I don't know, my brain is like literally processing, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Like I was taking it all in. I'll tell you, for me, I'm sure everyone will have different takeaways, because there was so much packed in that. Like, my brain is legit spinning. But my biggest, I think, was, I love how you referred to just like choosing positivity and like our mental awareness, mental health, and all that as a muscle, and like it has to grow. And I often forget that, and I sometimes often forget that, reiterate to my clients, because you know how many people come back in and they're like, well, Katie, I took 5 deep breaths and absolutely nothing happened. You know, and it's like, oh, it's a practice, and just like a muscle. Like I would never go to the gym and expect to, well, I really wouldn't ever expect to do anything, but you know, it is, you grow stronger and more. And so I love that. I love the description of like, we're plants. Like, that is the easiest, most beautiful. I'm going to steal that and use that now. I love it. Plant food, like the sun. I've been telling all my people, eat healthy, get water and get sun. So I love that. Of course, I love the brain talk. Man, I just loved everything. I don't even know if I have a follow-up question. I'm just still chewing on all of this. I'm going to have to re-watch it for myself.
Well, and I really think that it does get easier. It feels like monumental when you start some of this stuff. It feels like a lot to focus on these things, and it really gets easier over time. And I think it's because of that neuroplasticity stuff. Our brain's just rewiring as we go. So there's a learning curve, but once you kind of it just becomes super effortless. Kind of my own journey. Some of these things are like second nature for me now, whereas they were things I had to really actively work on at a certain point. So if it feels hard, it is, and just keep working on it. It gets easier.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love to also see, I'm thinking more is like the best case scenario, because you're right, our brains, you know, we're hardwired for negativity. And I love thinking that, you know, and there's so many things I think coming out of this that I'll look back and be like, I never would have taken time to notice the small positive, but now I'm like, if I have 5 minutes alone away from my kids, I am breathing that in, and it feels great. I would have never noticed that in the past. And you know, there's just so much. And so I think you hit on so many things people can take away. I took so many notes myself, but I cannot thank you enough for jumping on here today. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
No, I'm super grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And everyone, I have written down Tina's information, so you can contact her. She's an amazing therapist. I highly recommend her. Obviously, this is just a small piece of the amount of like knowledge she has and is willing to share. So thank you again for hopping on with us, and everyone, we will see you back on Thursday. Oh gosh, I was about to say next week. I'm losing my brain. I'll see you on Thursday.
Bye, Katie.